You're not broke because your paycheck is too small. You're stuck because the math of staying stuck is working against you. And until you change that math, no raise bonus or lucky break fixes the problem. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'll show you how people on ordinary U.S. salaries quietly build real wealth using boring, repeatable systems that actually work, starting now with what you already have, not someday when life gets easier. And before you roll your eyes, ask yourself this: if income alone made people wealthy, why are so many high earners still stressed, in debt, and one emergency away from panic? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your first 100 is the hardest money you will ever build, not because you're bad with money, but because compounding hasn't kicked in yet, and this phase feels slow, lonely, and socially awkward. Because you'll be doing things your friends won't understand, like driving an older car, skipping upgrades, saying no to trips, and watching others spend while you save. And that's exactly why most people quit. They want comfort now, proof now, dopamine now. But wealth doesn't work that way. And here's the simple math most people never hear. Invest $100,000 and earn a long-term average return around 7 to 10%. And over 20 years, that money can grow into several $100,000 without adding another dime. But the painful part is building the base. Because compounding only works after you give it time and material. Quick check. Could you stay disciplined for years without applause? And are you willing to look behind so you can actually get ahead? If $100 sounds impossible, good. That means you're normal. Because this doesn't start with big numbers. It starts with order. And the biggest mistake people make is paying everyone else first. Rent or mortgage, car payment, credit cards, subscriptions, delivery apps, and then hoping something is left to save, which almost never happens. Flip the order and pay yourself first, even if it's 25 or 50 into a Roth IRA 401k or high yield savings account. Because the amount isn't the point yet, the habit is. And every time you do this, you're training your brain to treat your future like a real obligation, not an optional one. Because think about skip rent, and there are immediate consequences. But skip investing for retirement, and the penalty shows up decades later when Social Security alone isn't enough and Medicare doesn't cover everything. Quick question. If your future self sent you an invoice, would you ignore it? Let me give you a short case example. I worked with someone earning under the national median income who automated $200 a month into a diversified index fund inside a Roth IRA, avoided lifestyle inflation, and focused on debt payoff. And within a few years, the balance crossed 5 figures. Not because of stock picking genius, but because consistency beat chaos. Now let's talk debt, because if you're carrying credit card balances at 18-25% interest, the math is brutal. You cannot out-invest that reliably. It's like trying to run uphill on a treadmill that's speeding up. So the priority is simple and boring. Eliminate high-interest consumer debt. Keep a modest emergency fund. And be very careful with leverage. Because borrowing to impress people who don't pay your bills is one of the fastest ways to delay freedom. And while a reasonably priced primary residence can make sense for some households, oversized homes come with hidden drains like property tax increases, HOA fees, insurance, and maintenance that quietly eat future options. Another engagement check. Do you know your actual monthly fixed costs down to the dollar? Most people don't, and that's why money feels like it disappears. So here's a rule that saves years of regret. If something requires a salesperson, a massive commission, and a thick prospectus to explain why it's great, pause, because complexity often hides fees, and fees quietly kill compounding. Instead, for most U.S. investors, the evidence-backed approach is low-cost, diversified index funds held inside tax-advantaged accounts like 401ks and IRAs, invested regularly and left alone, because the real money isn't made by constant buying and selling. It's made by waiting, and every time you jump in and out, you risk taxes, fees, and missed growth. So stop interrupting compounding for short-term excitement. Now let's address lifestyle inflation, the silent killer. When your income goes up and your spending rises right with it, nothing changes. But when income rises and expenses stay mostly flat, the gap becomes savings and investments. And that gap is where freedom is built. Even if it means driving the same car after a raise or staying in the same apartment longer than feels impressive. Because the race isn't against your neighbor, it's against your past self. Wealth doesn't require brilliance. It requires avoiding obvious mistakes. Don't chase get-rich-quick schemes. Don't invest in what you don't understand. Don't ignore taxes. Don't spend to signal success. And don't compare your Chapter 3 to someone else's Chapter 20, because half of what you see online is financed, filtered, or fake, and the real flex is financial peace. Being able to handle a 500 emergency, take time off, or sleep without money anxiety. Stealth wealth is quiet, unbranded, and boring, and that's a feature, not a bug. Finally, if you want your income to grow, invest in yourself alongside your portfolio. Skills compound too. And spending an hour a day learning something valuable, improving communication, or mastering a marketable skill increases your earning power over time, which feeds the system you've already built. And yes, it takes months or years before it pays off. But that same patience is what makes compounding work in the first place. Here's the simple math example to close it out. $200 a month invested consistently for 10 years is $24,000 in contributions, and with reasonable long-term returns that can grow into roughly $40 and $50 depending on markets. Not magic, not guaranteed, just math plus time. And that's how ordinary people quietly build extraordinary stability. Quick final question. Will you choose short-term comfort or long-term options? If this helped, subscribe for practical U.S. personal finance explained without hype. Comment. Start. If you're committing to paying yourself first this month, and watch the next video where I break down exactly how to set up a simple, low-cost investment system using a 401k, Roth IRA, and index funds. This is educational content, not financial advice. Investing involves risk. Returns aren't guaranteed, and taxes and rules vary, so always consider your own situation.